I probably got one of the most hated gun review videos on YouTube. Let's see if I can make one of the most hated lens reviews on YouTube. Let's talk about the Rokinon 14mm F2.8 AF. This is one for a Canon bayonet or Canon system. This is a prime 14mm kind of wide angle lens, and it entered the market. And one of the biggest things about it that made it like a big deal is that it had autofocus for a budget lens. Most Rokinons or Tamron lenses are a manual focus, and they have different models where one is like strictly manual focus, where you have to visually like focus the lens through your camera and make sure that you're focused and tack sharp all on your own, like no well. So then they made what they call focus confirmation, and there's a chip in the lenses, Tamron, Rokinon, a couple others, where you still have to manually adjust it, but it will confirm that whatever you're pointed at in the focus like ring or focus selector on your camera is pointed at, it'll confirm that that section is in what the camera thinks is focused. So going to autofocus was like a super big deal, because like there's some stuff that I just don't want to do is like manually focus, especially when I'm like shooting an interior of a home, and that's what this lens is for. Now, is this a good lens? Yeah, it's a good lens. I really like it. It's totally worth the investment, because trying to get like a 14mm Canon L lens, that's $2,500 versus, you know, $500. And this still gets the job done. One, being a low aperture lens, so it works really well in low light situations and still kind of keeps a decent sharpness. So that has it, you know, that's qualities that it's going for it. It also is an aluminum construction, so it's built really well. And then the glass on it is just amazing for what it is. Rokinon, Tamron, they all make really decent glass elements. And like you really can't like judge them too much for that, especially for the price that they charge. Now, on to some of the things about this lens that I don't like is, one is this lens cover. I don't call it a lens cap, because this is a lens cap. Lens cap, it locks onto the lens and it protects the camera. You can shake it around, throw it around, and the lens cap stays on. Things bump into it, it's perfectly safe. So what drives me nuts about this lens cover is it's friction mounted. So it literally has a little bit of velvet inside this ring, and then it just kind of goes on over the lens hood and is held there by friction. Well, over time, it just it falls off. And so you can't really cruise around and protect this huge lens that also is convex and pokes out a little bit. So like you have to be kind of careful with what you're doing. So one of the solutions I came up with for this is that I went and bought one of these like silicone lens protectors that you can buy on Amazon. Again, I'll leave links for this stuff down below. And you basically just take this little puppy and just kind of take it. It's a little booty for your camera lens, and you just put her over there, make sure it's on, and then boom, your lens is protected. It's also kind of nice that it like adds a little bit of protection, keeps like parts of the lens that like are like the most prominent angles, keeps them from getting beat up. So that was my solution for this kind of wonky lens cover. So the other thing too about this lens that kind of bugged me is that it has a built-in lens hood, which is cool. People love lens hoods. I don't normally use lens hoods very much because I kind of dig a little bit of flare, and I always kind of use my hand or a piece of paper to like shade light if I need to. But the reason why I don't really care for this lens hood is that, one, it's a tulip. So it basically has 2 long petals, 2 short petals. And so you can't put a filter on this. There's no threads or anything to be able to put a filter onto this. And even if you were able to like finagle a filter on there, the short petals would create light leak, and that kind of, you know, messes you up. Now, I don't have a solution for this, but I have an idea. And for those of you that are super creative and have maybe a 3D printer or access to like making stuff, I would basically take the same dimensions as this lens cover, maybe create them a little bit smaller in diameter so you get a tighter fit, but then basically make this into a thread pattern that would fit a ND filter or a filter ring or something, or maybe build like, you know, those slide filters that you can slide and create gradients and things like that. I think that would be super cool. And if I had money, that was like on my list. So that about the lens hood, the not being able to use a filter on it's kind of a pain in the butt. I think being able to use filters on this lens would be super cool, especially for like unique landscape situations, especially tight quarters, like shooting waterfalls and things like that. You want to get kind of up close to get super good detail, but like also create like a really vast effect. Filters would really help with that. So now the back cap is the other thing that kind of bugs me about this, is that the Rokinon one fits really well, and this is by Rokinon, and once you lock it in place, it doesn't want to fall off. But if you take a Canon back cap and put it on here, it doesn't really lock on. It kind of like feels like it's locked on, and then if it gets bumped, it falls right off. And so I don't really trust using Canon caps, and if you're like me switching lenses all the time, you're just going to grab the cap that was off the lens you just put on your camera, and you're going to put it onto the lens that you're going to put back in your bag. And so that can be kind of a like unsafe situation. I have nightmares of like breaking elements because like either lens caps or back caps are not put on properly. So that's kind of really most of the cons about this thing. I did notice that every so often with the autofocus that it would like shutter and it wouldn't really lock onto something. And so I would have to like focus a few times and it would work. And it would act like it would freak out. It wouldn't be like looking and like kind of what they call like, I don't even know how to explain it, where it just kind of zooms in, zooms out a little bit, zooms back in, out a little bit more, zooms back, and then finally locks. It wasn't doing that. It would literally like shutter in the camera like it got confused and was freaking out. And then it would stop and then it would grab focus. So for me, that's not a big deal because shooting interiors and stuff like that, I just basically check my shots. If I don't like it, I redo it. You know, if you're doing stuff on the fly, like I've used this for weddings, for like walks down the aisle, and they create like a really cool dramatic look. And every now and then, something might be out of focus. That's not entirely the camera or the lens's fault, but it also kind of creates like a trust issue between me and this lens and like getting a shot that I need. One thing about it that they did that I thought was super cool that a lot of entry-level lenses don't do, like all my L lenses have weather seals on the back end, so when the bayonet locks into the camera, it creates a seal, it keeps out dust, moisture, light rain, things like that. This has the exact same thing, and this seal is actually built really, really well, and that's like one thing that really kind of sold me on it because I do a lot of work outdoors in where I live and photograph people. It's a dusty, dirty world. So that's really the gist of this video about this lens and kind of the pros and cons, maybe more cons. But don't get me wrong, it's a really good lens, and for the money, it's a super good investment. And like I've said before, you get what you pay for and you make do with what you got. So other than that, you guys take care, be safe, and I will catch you later.